She came roaring down the trail in a brand new white Jeep with big HOA stickers slapped on the sides like she owned the forest. "You can't block community access," she shouted, stepping out in her fancy boots. But there was no community here. This was our private hunting land, bought, fenced, and posted long before any HOA existed. Grandpa just looked at her, quiet, steady, with that old veteran stare that could freeze a man in mid-step. Behind her, two men climbed out of the Jeep wearing black shirts labeled HOA Enforcement. They even had badges that looked real. One of them tapped the side of his belt where a holstered weapon rested. My pulse jumped. Fake cops on our property. Grandpa didn't move. He simply said, "Ma'am, you've got 10 seconds to get that Jeep off my land." She laughed, high-pitched and fake sweet. "Sir, you don't understand. This road is for HOA members only. We manage it now." Then she waved a paper in his face, some made-up document with bold letters reading Private Community Authority Notice. Grandpa didn't even look at it. His eyes were on the tire tracks cutting deep into the fresh mud we'd graded last week. "You brought them in that?" he asked softly. "Through my trail?" The taller officer stepped closer. "We're authorized to be here," he said, touching his holster again. "You can't threaten us." Grandpa smiled slightly. "Who said anything about threatening?" That's when I noticed his hand slip into his vest pocket, the one where he kept his old hunting license. He pulled out a small metal spike, the kind he used when coyotes got too bold near the traps. My stomach dropped. I whispered, "Grandpa, what are you doing?" He answered calmly, "Making sure they don't leave the same way they came." The woman finally sensed something was wrong. "Excuse me," she said, stepping back. "You can't," but it was too late. Grandpa walked behind the Jeep, bent down and pressed those little tire killers right where the exit curve began. He didn't even look up. The fake officers tensed. One reached for his radio, but Grandpa stood tall and said quietly, "Drive through if you want. Just remember, you entered without permission. No one moved." The wind rustled through the trees and the forest fell silent. Then the woman's voice cracked. "This isn't over," she hissed, climbing into the Jeep. Grandpa nodded. "You're right about that." As they rolled forward, tires crunching slow over the dirt, he whispered to me, "Sometimes you don't chase justice, you just make sure it can't drive away." By the time Sheriff Ross's truck rumbled up the trail, the sun hung low, painting everything gold and tense. The woman straightened her jacket like she'd been waiting to be rescued. "Finally," she muttered. "These people sabotaged my vehicle and threatened us." Ross stepped out slowly, boots crunching gravel. He'd known Grandpa for decades. They used to hunt together. He looked from the Jeep to the spikes glinting in the mud, then at Grandpa, who hadn't moved an inch. "Evening, Bill," Ross said quietly. "Heard there's been some excitement." Grandpa nodded. "Seems your department hired some new lawmen." The tall fake officer puffed his chest. "We're with the HOA Security Division. They damaged our property." Ross raised an eyebrow. "Funny, I didn't know HOAs had their own police force." The man hesitated. "We're contracted." "Then you won't mind showing me your credentials," Ross said, stepping closer. The man's confidence cracked. His hands twitched. The woman hurriedly pulled out that fake paper again. "Here's our authority notice," she insisted. "This land falls under Silver Pines HOA. It's our jurisdiction now." Ross took the paper, scanned it, then chuckled, a slow, dangerous laugh. "Lady, this thing's got spelling errors and a county seal from 3 years ago. Did you print this off your kitchen computer?" Her face flushed red. "That's not the point. He can't just spike our car." Grandpa tilted his head. "Maybe next time don't drive onto someone's land without permission." Ross sighed. "You're lucky Bill hasn't pressed charges yet, but after this stunt I might have to." The tall man grabbed his fake badge. "We're leaving," he snapped. "This is harassment." Ross blocked his path. "No, you're not. Those plates are fake too." He brushed mud off the Jeep's tag. "Dealer plates, no VIN, no registration. Looks like you've been impersonating officers." The woman's voice shook. "We were told it was legal." The HOA president said. Ross cut her off. "Save it. You're all coming to the station." Grandpa glanced at me, that calm smirk returning. "Told you, kid, sometimes you just let people dig their own grave." As Ross cuffed the tall one, the woman tried one last threat. "You'll regret this. The HOA runs this county." Grandpa leaned close, voice low but sharp. "No, ma'am. The people do." The look on her face said she finally understood. This wasn't her world to control. Then Ross called out, Bill, you'll want to see this. He pointed to a small camera under the Jeep's mirror. Still recording? Grandpa's smile faded. Looks like they weren't just here for the trail. Ross played the footage. It showed the woman and her crew marking trees, measuring land, laughing about selling extra lots. They weren't enforcing anything. They were stealing property. Grandpa shook his head. Knew it, he muttered. Ross called for backup. Within minutes, real deputies arrived. The woman shouted about lawsuits and power, but no one listened this time. The fake officers were led away in cuffs, pale and silent. Ross turned to Grandpa. You pressing charges? Grandpa looked at the ruined Jeep, then at the trail behind him. No, he said. I just want my land left alone. Later that night, as we packed up our tools, I asked, Grandpa, how'd you know they were fake? He smiled, lighting his pipe. Real cops don't drive into trouble with clean boots. A week later, news broke that the HOA president was under federal investigation for fraud. The woman lost everything. Grandpa never bragged, never even mentioned it again. But every time we walked past that curve in the trail, he'd glance at the spot where those spikes went down and say, respect the land or the land will teach you. And that's how a fake HOA learned what real ownership means. The end.